La 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 la. La 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 la.
Hi.
How are you?
Hello, Paul.
Hello.
Oh my God, look who it is.
Been a while. How you doing, Paul?
The legend himself.
Hi, can you hear me?
I'm supposed to ask 3 questions. Is that right?
Look at you. Glasses, beard, long hair.
Ah,
Hey,
oh my God.
how are
I
you?
know. Oh, my people.
I like when you stir the pot. Hi, Herman.
Okay, that's good. I don't want to make it difficult, but I mean,
No,
I
no,
got
no. Because I live in a world of dead honesty, questions don't scare me. If as long as I tell the truth, I'm home.
great. People say I'm, abrasive and
Nah.
all that kind of shit. And it's like,
I've seen you say abrasive things to your bandmates. At one point, you looked at the singer and you said, "Well, you were horrible tonight," and I was like, "You can't say that." I mean, but he didn't sing that well that night. So I guess you were right.
do you ever tell your staff, this guitar is not built well. This is terrible. Or do you try to sandwich it? We call it the shit sandwich, right? We put compliment at the end and at the beginning and put the reality in the middle. How do you deal with that? I'm sure not every guitar is built perfectly the way you want when you make that many.
You're asking me the toughest question there is for me. So I'm going to be really straight. Because I have the experiences of working on a bench by myself for 10 years, making guitars and having to do every little teeny piece by myself, I know what is involved in design of tuning pegs or nuts or truss rods, or how you put the truss rod in, how do you get it to not rattle, how do you get the frets to be in the right place, how do you get the nut heights right, how do you get it glued on correctly, how do you get the neck angle right, I mean, just thousands of things. And so it puts me in a position where I see really well. So when I check all the private stocks, they just spent all month on the guitar, and in seconds I'm making an assessment about whether or not it is up to snuff. And what we call it are APGAR scores. In other words, when a baby's born, is it breathing right? All the things when a baby's born, how is it? And what I'll say is, sometimes the most insulting thing I'll say is, well, it's a hippie sandwich. In other words, it's got a green top and a brown middle and a pink back, and they inlaid their dogs on it, and it's got wooden knobs, and it's got purple oval inlays on the third fret, but then somebody put a flower on top of the tone knob. They look like hippie sandwiches to me. Now that's not a compliment, that it's a hippie sandwich. So I have my sweet ways of saying, not really my cup of tea. Now, if the guitar doesn't sound good, we call it the plinks. If a guitar goes da 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 and the high string goes ee 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 ee, I call it plinky. It's called the plinks. So this guitar's got the plinks, and I'll get them to work on it to bring it back. The biggest complaint that I have is the guitar's not making the right vowel sound. So some guitars acoustically go oh or ah or ooh or ah or e, and you want it to have a good vowel sound. Like ah, you want it to have a really singing tone. When you sent me your programs for your digital amp, you were trying to get all the notes to come out without it being harsh on top, without it having too much low mids, and the bass to be right. And I'm sure that you thought that program at some point in its life was crap, and you adjusted until you liked it. And I'm sure you didn't mince words at all, because that's your style. I put a little more honey on it before I go dark. I'm a little more honey on it than you do, but I will go dark. It's shit. It's crap. I don't know. I'm not as I didn't come from where you grew up in England. And in where you grew up in England, people said it almost exaggeratedly bad if it was bad. I've heard you do it.
Hmm.
And people get a kick out of it. But it's the way you grew up. I met some people I met some people that grew up near Cobalt Hall in South Detroit, and they'd look at you as if they were going to kill you, and I thought they were kidding. They weren't. They were going to kill you. I mean, this is way rougher than South Philly.
I, I,
I mean,
it,
you grew up
yeah.
in the. I mean, come on, tell everybody, where'd you grow up in London? It was rough,
Well,
right?
I mean, it wasn't rough, but I was in normal school. It wasn't a private school, so it can get rough. And I got bullied pretty much the whole time. And
Yeah,
before that, I'm from Hong Kong, so
yeah,
people from Hong Kong don't really flower it up if they tell you something. If
yeah,
something is bad, they tell you
yeah.
bad because. So I grew up, my family, my parents, the same way is, don't waste time. You gotta give the correct information because how do you make improvement on something if you're just gonna spend, 80% of the time make someone feel good, which is not really what the subject is. The subject is ones and zeros, and so instead of being a gray area. So I mean, I gotta say though, I have learned a lot, working in the music business, working with different artists and different people, is you have to put the shit sandwich together because that's just a way of communicating, and you're gonna get better result. But with you, Paul, I don't do the shit sandwich because I don't think you need it. Do you know what I mean? But other people, we kind of have to do it.
You mean you have to make it worse than it is to make sure they do something about it?
Well, I don't think I make it that worse. Maybe that's kind of a humor, a bit like Gordon Ramsay, right? The chef. He kind of go a bit extreme. I don't go that extreme, but I try to put all the information together.
Well, I tell you, if you gently say it to me, I take it seriously. If you yell at me about something, I might take it less seriously. So maybe you've got it right. Shit sandwich with me.
This is your press day. I was laughing before this call. I said, well, even Paul have to do press day. He's a YouTuber now. YouTube press days. I mean, do you feel like as you got older and more mature in life, you actually changed? So at the beginning, did you put the honey in it? If people came to your shop and they say, well, this is my guitar, I want it fixed, will you say, well, what happened to it? Why did you treat this guitar like shit? Or did you grow older and started like, working that communication part, or are you always been the same?
I'm getting worse. I used to be nicer. If somebody would come into the shop and the guitar was literally caked in skin goo, it had literally was dirty and needed to be cleaned, and it smelled, and if and they had worn leather pants the night before, and they had these black lines all the way down their legs from the leather sweat staining their legs, and they had shorts on, we'd laugh about that, and I would clean the guitar, and I never complained about it. You got to remember, I wasn't allowed in the club. Nobody wanted me in the club. So if I got into the club, I was giddy. I couldn't believe I got let in. I mean, I begged you to let me make you guitars for decades. And then you finally said, okay, you can do it now. I was like, oh my God, I got the job. I mean, for me, it was always that I wasn't allowed, and then I finally got permission. Where some people, they were being asked by everybody and they didn't want to do it, and they had a bad attitude. My attitude's always been really thankful. If there's a big line of people that want to get stuff signed, which you've seen many, many, many times in your life, when it started to happen to me, somebody said, doesn't it bother you? I said, no, it's an honor. I can't believe it's even happening. But I am famously hard on interns. Because what will happen is they'll leave and they'll go right back to the way they were, and it breaks my heart. So I want them to shift their attitude forever. So my stepkids roll their eyes when I get a new intern. They go, oh my God, he's going to kill him. Because I want them to change their attitude forever about how they look at things. And when they go back to the way they were, I feel like I wasted my time. It breaks my heart.
You know what's funny? We've been we've done quite a few meetings on Zoom and stuff. I gotta say, man, I mean, my wife said I was harsh to you guys.
Yeah.
I thought you were pretty harsh to your staff. You know, so
I'm harsh to them.
I thought, wow, that's a bit, you know, let's say that wouldn't be a Los Angeles meeting. Do you know what I mean? That was like, you pretty much said exactly what you think. You know, remember we had that three-way disagreement between you, someone else, I can't remember who, and me, about how a guitar neck joint should be glued or should bolt. No, it was a cutaway or something.
Mm-hmm.
And three-way disagreement.
Mm-hmm.
And you make your point, what you think, and I make my point, what I think. And they did too.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, that was...
Well, my point was if you had drilled many holes on both sides of it and glued it better, it would have never come out. And I had some experience that they didn't have. He made a brilliant point that if we had a curved from the bottom of the tongue up, it would have been 10 times stronger. And I was like, you are correct. That would have been 10 times stronger. I mean, so when they make a point that makes a good point, I'm their biggest advocate. But when they're making a point that's two-dimensional and it's a four-dimensional problem, you know, that's different. Maybe I'm being harsh. I mean, John Muir looked at me once. He says, "Paul, that was a little salty. Maybe I need to back it down a bit. Maybe I'm learning something in this." I'm being told by my friend here that I need to back it down a little bit. All right, question 3. I'll eat that one.
Just so you know, I don't think you should. I don't think you should.
Yeah.
If they worked with you long enough, they know you, they should understand that everything you're saying was for good reasons. Only to a stranger do you need to back it down. Me, you shouldn't. And neither should people you work with for a long time. That's my analysis for my young, short amount of time on this earth, you know. But move along.
Herman, you are one of the smartest people I ever met. So that's a whole nother thing. I'm gonna ask you a question when this is over that's gonna embarrass you. So let's go.
Look, you've been in the guitar industry for a long time, making guitars and running a company. At this point, I mean, what do you focus on? Do you try to say, I don't want to deal with this money situation, the cost and how to say business part, and you want to spend more time creating the guitar, making the guitar? Because there's a balance, right? You know, production, cost, guitar, what you really want to do. How do you make that balance between the business part and selling a guitar and making a good guitar that people can afford and not afford? It's a long question.
I like the business part. What I don't like about the business part when a section of the business isn't making any money to have to cut it off. I don't like that part. It's painful for me. When 2009 happened, my income dropped by 2/3 in one day because I'm on a form of profit and there wasn't any. Breaking even in 2009 was doing good. So I went to my accountant and I said, you take care of the bills and I'll make the guitars better and we'll get out of this by making people want the guitars more. And I put my head down and worked really, really hard to get the guitars to be way better because I knew one fact: a Magic guitar sells. If you open a case and the guitar is the real deal, it will sell. So my way of attacking the money problem is with better product. It would be like you working on getting the next record to be just unbelievable so it sells, and that takes care of the money, Herman. I mean, that's happened to you over and over again in your life, right? Where your guys are focused on the product. That would be music for you. Don't you kind of keep your head down? I've seen you go to gigs, set up cameras, be doing all the internet streaming stuff. When I'm listening to the count-offs in the earbuds, when you guys are playing, it's you talking. You're up to your eyeballs in all of it. So do you worry about the money or do you worry about delivering the goods?
Uh, I guess delivering the goods is definitely the higher priority
Right. Right.
in that. The percentage of time I spend is definitely more on that because someone else can do the money,
Right.
but no one can do the artist for me.
Yeah.
So that is really the concentration. I mean, I have to know it, but I don't. It's like, okay, you guys got to deal with this. I can't do this now because my brain can't work this function while I'm thinking artistic, creative stuff. So
Right.
yeah, definitely more on the artistic side is what my brain focus on.
So let me tell you a story about when I met you and what I saw, and then I have a question for you. Okay?
Yeah.
My son, Sam, came to me and he goes, "You got to go see Dragon Force, Dad." I said, "What's a Dragon Force?" He goes, "No, you need, they're playing at the 930 Club and we're going there, the coolest thing ever." And he plays me this song that's twice as fast as anything ever recorded, as far as I could tell, and was literally like frying an egg on concrete. It was blisteringly. I mean, the musicianship was at double or triple speed. And I thought to myself, in the trampled grass of music, they found a new garden, a new place that nobody else had. And I asked you about it, and you talked to me about what you and Sam did to develop that. What I want to know is what went into the thinking about how to have this new spot in music that was literally hyperspeed, literally, sweeping. I mean, sweeping had already started, but this was a new animal. And when I went and saw the band, you guys had a 10-minute clock that clicked down from 10 minutes to zero. When it got to zero and you guys hit the stage, the police people were already whipped into a frenzy by a clock. I'd never seen anything like it in my life, Herman. It was a new way of thinking. And you wanted everybody literally losing their noodles, like they couldn't deal with what they were watching. So how did you and Sam figure out this new, I mean, what was the thought process? Well, we're going to do something new in this music arena that, Deep Purple basically had trampled the ground of Dragon Force, except that at 1/3 the speed.
Yeah, I think looking back now, and I still remember, the only reason we were playing music is because we enjoyed it. And we wanted to play on stage. I've always thought the experience of performing in front of an audience was exciting. Same thing with Sam. So we made this band and we thought, well, in order to play live, we got to make demos and we have to get record deals, right? That's the only way we can get on tour and have a great time. And at that time, when we started the band, playing guitar solos, any kind of technical melodic singing was kind of being laughed at a lot around the world, especially in England and America, right? People laughed at us. Oh, you guys play solo. That is so yesterday. Who cares? And you guys have singing. That's so cheesy. So what happened is it actually made us do more of everything that people was laughing at us for. So we made double the amount of guitar solos, made it more melodic, more, the singing is really right, more grabbing as much as possible, harmonies. It's like kind of like a FU way to say, like, you don't like what we play? Well, you know what? We're going to go an extra mile and take it to another level, to the extreme.
That's exactly what you did.
That's what happened. And as the album went on, we took it to another level. And people didn't really like it at the beginning. They thought, this is too fast, too much guitars. But slowly, the world kind of turned around and we were the only people at that time, in the kind of that went up with that kind of extreme kind of guitar playing onto the mainstream. It kind of exploded. And of course, I had to have the longest hair because, like, if you're going to have long hair, have the longest, go most crazy. Trampoline on stage, everything, the clock, everything, you name it. We try to go one up, more was more. And that's kind of how it came about. And it defined our sound, was going against the grain of what was popular at that time.
Well, when I went to see you play at the 930 Club, the line went not around the building, it went around the block to get in. I've been there 25 times. I've seen Jeff Beck and all kinds of people there. Nobody had a line around the whole block, not the building. It was extraordinary. I looked at somebody and I went, you know how intelligent that is to be able to pull that off? And then Periphery did the same thing. Did you notice what they did? They took it to another level in a different way, right? They did it in a bedroom in Bethesda, Maryland. Where did you record the record? Did you record it in a bedroom or you were in a recording studio?
Well, I'll tell you this, you understand this because you know me quite well.
Yeah.
For the first album, of course, we're a young band. So the record label said, you're going to go to this big producer. You're going to record there in that, in another country. You guys going to do what he says. I sacked the producer after 3 days. I said, what is this guy going to tell me? I'm not here to conform to what he wants. I know he made a lot of big records before, but I don't want to sound like the old days. I want to sound current in a new way. So I called the label after 3 days. I sacked him and I went back and recorded all the guitars myself and picked my own studio to do to the rest of the stuff. I don't know if it's cocky or it's just the fire of the youth that made me just say, you know what, I don't care what you guys got to say. Mm-hmm.
I think what you and Sam and the whole group did was extraordinary. And I had never experienced anything like it in my life. And it wasn't the kind of music I wanted to play on stage because I actually like to cut the speed in half because that's a whole nother feel. I like really slow, grindy stuff that was famous in London 20 years before Dragon Force, that Paul Rodgers was doing. I really, really, really loved it. Yeah. You know something, Herman? There's a lot going on with how you guys set up guitars. I've learned a huge amount from you about this new way of making guitars. You really, it's more of a synthesizer controller than a guitar in a way, but it is both at the same time. So I'm learning as much as anybody in this whole thing. Your most recent videos caused quite a stir, but I like that. But you like stirring the pot. You enjoy it.
I think it's good. Get people thinking, It's get people talking about things. I don't know. Sometimes when I do a podcast, an interview, there's magazines picking up 3, 4, 5 different articles out of them. They're just chopping up and taking different things I say. I'm not trying to stir on purpose, but I think.
Oh yeah, you are. You're stirring on purpose. That's not true. You told me when you were here and we did your thing that you were stirring on purpose. Come on.
Oh, a little bit, but
I just shit sandwiched him.
You did. You got me actually. Yeah. I tried to stir it up, but I tried to play the game, exactly. A lot of things people don't talk about. And I think sometimes I hear people talk on the internet without any kind of enough experience for them, and then people think that is right. So I want to kind of use my experience and kind of put my take on it too, so people can see a different opinion and maybe they think I'm right, maybe think I'm wrong. But sometimes I feel like people like us with experience in our field should speak up about certain things because that's going to make things better in a certain way. What do you think?
I agree. Were you worried that the record company was going to drop you when you canned the producer?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We had 4 or 5 deals, that was there. And the contract said they have to fulfill it anyway when we signed it. So it didn't really matter,
Yeah. Herman, thanks for being on. These things are watched. This is our version of your show. We did good today.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to see.
I want to be back on your show.
yeah, I'm glad to see you on YouTube doing the YouTuber thing. You know, it's kind of funny. It's a crossing the different boundaries and creating something amazing that people don't expect. You know, people didn't expect me to be on YouTube and doing all this live streaming stuff. I certainly didn't expect it when I was young, you know.
Herman, I didn't say this. Love you. See you. Take good care of yourself.
Yeah. Bye.